Until this point in the training program, we've used the scenario file format to load and save data used in our models. iVNT can use other formats. Some are standard and others developed specifically to the requirements of a particular use case. We're going to look at some different formats in this video and explore how they might be used. Let's begin with the familiar formats we've seen before. These store data as tagged XML text, so you can open them in a browser or text editor to look at the content. You can change the content by hand editing it or processing it with program code, then load it back to iVNT. To remind you, network files contain the nodes and links. Services files contain services and paths. Scenario files contain both of these and some report data. These formats are useful general-purpose tools for saving and loading data. I'll load a scenario file and then we can see how else we might store it. Firstly, let's look at the GPB option. GPB stands for Google Protocol Buffer. This is a protocol for serializing structured data into a flat file. But unlike XML, the format is not easily human readable. GPB format files, though, are much smaller than the equivalent XML file. This makes them advantageous for storing and moving large scenarios with thousands of nodes, links and services. As an example, this scenario is saved in 28.4K as a .scn file using XML, but just 3.75K as a .spb file using GPB format, and this ratio is fairly typical even for larger scenarios. Now I'll save the same scenario as an Excel file. This file is in between the other two in size at 8.86 kilobytes. If I open it in Excel, you can see that the workbook has a number of tabs, each with a different table of data. This data is editable, like the XML format, and can also be used for analysis and reporting using pivot charts, for example. It's also possible to introduce new dynamic properties into the model just by adding columns. We have a vendor ID column already in place, but that property is blank for all nodes. I'll add an extra column for equipment type and populate both columns. You can, of course, populate columns using numeric formulas or string concatenation, for example. This might be used as a fast way to build user tags or to rename nodes or links. I'll edit the existing data to make nodes A and D large. Now I'll save the model and reload it in iVNT. You can see that the two nodes A and D are now large in the map. If we look at the node properties, we can see that the Excel workbook has also added the other data to the model. The exported data that's saved to the spreadsheet format is described by a config file in the .aria networks iVNT folder under your username on the PC. If the dynamic properties are to be preserved when I next export to Excel, I need to include the property name in the section of the file that lists node properties. We've just looked at the XML, GPB and Excel options in this video. There are imports and export formats that are specific to capacity planning and other network equipment specific plug-in adapters. The architecture of iVNT allows new adapters to be built and deployed. In this way, it's possible to import an existing topology and a set of service demands, model and optimize routing in iVNT, and then export the data needed to provision the network with the optimized routing. If you have any questions about iVNT or the iVNT training, please contact ARIA Networks during UK office hours.